So this is a video for Lucia, or I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, but she wanted to know how to take this folded card and make the lattice more delicate, but keep the size of the card the same. So I was going to show how I would do that. So this is just an image. If I look down here, it tells me that that's an image. So the first thing I want to do is trace this. So I'm going to go to Path, Trace Bitmap. And I'm just going to use this default brightness cutoff threshold 0.45, and I'll just say OK. Okay, so there's the trace right there. I'm gonna keep this here because I'm going to use it for something else. Now, I think probably the easiest thing to do would be to just get rid of everything here and draw it over again. But first, I'm going to go ahead and drag some guidelines out to show where the scores are going to be. So I'm just going to click over here on the ruler and drag a guideline. Now I have my snap tools on, and I don't know which one is allowing me to do that, but one of these, I think it's snap to cusp node, is allowing me to snap exactly to where these little score marks are. If not, you can just eyeball it. It's not that big a deal. Okay, so now I've got those marked. Now I'm going to click on this, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break it apart and then union it back together to get rid of the lattice completely. So I'll go to Path, Break Apart. That breaks it down into all of its little component shapes, and then I'll say Path, Union. Now it's just a solid shape. Now, to get these lattices, here's what I'm going to do. There's probably several different ways you can do this, and this is just when I was playing around with it, this worked pretty well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle right between these two guidelines, and because I've got snap tools on, it's snapping it exactly. And then I'm going to turn that rectangle white by clicking down here. Okay, I'm just using that to mask off the middle, and now I'm going to use the paint bucket to draw a little white shape in here. So I'm going to press the plus key to zoom in quite a bit. Not quite that much. Then I'm going to click on the selector tool and click off so that nothing is selected. And now I'm going to click on the paint bucket tool. And that's the reason I put this white rectangle on here, to mask that off so that I can fill in an area that's sort of equivalent to these shapes here. I've got the threshold set at 25. I don't think it really matters because this is black and this is white, so there's a lot of difference. It's not going to have trouble figuring out where to draw. Then I'm going to click on the Grow Shrink. Mine is set to inches. I'm going to change it to pixels. And I'm going to tell this to shrink my paint fill by minus 15 pixels. So let me just click in here and do that. And you can see how that made a nice inner outline of that shape where we want the lattice to be. I'm not going to bother doing it over here because once I get this side done, I'm just going to copy it and mirror it and bring it over here. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to draw some lattices. And I'm just going to copy the angle that's on these. You could pick an entirely different angle, but I'm just going to copy by taking the Bezier tool here. I clicked on it, and I'm going to click sort of right in the middle of this line here. And I'm going to come out quite a ways. And then I'm going to press click again and press enter. Now I'm going to click on the node tool, and I'm going to click on this node right here and just bring it up so it's kind of right in the middle there. All right. Now I'll click on the selector tool again. And now I'm going to click Control-Shift-F to bring up my fill menu. Whoops, I accidentally deleted that. And over here on the tabs, I'm going to click on Stroke Style, make sure it's selected. And I'm going to change the stroke style until I get it fairly thick. I'm going to try 10 pixels first. Now that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm just going to bring that stroke over here. Bring that line, and I'm going to put it about where I think the first lattice should be. I'm going to duplicate it by doing Control D, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift key on the keyboard and press the down arrow twice. I'm going to duplicate it again, Control D, Shift, down arrow twice, Control D, Shift, down arrow twice, and I'm just going to keep doing that, duplicating and shifting it down 2 notches. Until I get the whole thing filled. So it's duplicate, hold down Shift and press the down arrow twice until it's all filled. Okay? And so those are all covering the white part, which is what I want. If they were a little bit, if I didn't quite do this long enough, I could click on one of these and then right click and go down to select same stroke color, and that selects all of the things that have a red stroke. And now I can just use the arrow keys on the keyboard to move it. That's just an easy way to select a bunch of things that are the same color. And so I see I need another one here, so I'm going to click on that one, Control D to duplicate, hold down the Shift, and click the up arrow twice. And those are all now moved out, and they're exactly equally spaced, which is what I want. Okay, so now again I'm going to select all of these by clicking on it, right-clicking, select same, stroke color. All of my red strokes are selected. I'm going to duplicate all of those by pressing Control D. Now I'm going to mirror them all by pressing the little mirror button up here. Okay, now they're all mirrored. And again, I can move them over to line them up how I want them to be. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to use these to subtract out of the white, but I can't subtract them now because they're strokes and they won't subtract the way I want them to, or difference. So while they're all selected, I can go up to Path, Stroke to Path. Alright, now all of these red lines are actually paths, and I'm going to union them together. So I go to Path, Union. Alright, so now all of those are one, should have been one object. I must have missed, let's see, select same, fill color, path, stroke to path, and now union, path, union. Okay, now they're all one object. No, they're not. What have I done? Select them both. Now they are. I was just only selecting one at the same time. Okay, so now what I can do is I can select those red ones, and if I hold down Shift and the Alt key and click again, it will select what's behind. So now you can see I've selected that white part as well. And I'm going to use Path Difference to subtract those red things out of the white area. So now you can see it looks like a smaller, more delicate lattice. But those white things are a separate object. I can change them. If I was to change them to yellow, you can see that they're not part of this. They'd just be something to put on top. So now we can do difference again to subtract those yellow diamonds out of this black. But first we need to duplicate it so we can put a copy over here. So Control D to duplicate, up here to mirror. Alright, now I've got a mirrored copy. I can hold down the Shift key and press the right arrow to move that over to the other side. Alright, it's not lined up exactly, so that looks pretty good. Okay, now I can select both of these yellow objects and I can union those together, Path, Union. Now if I hold down the Shift key and I have the yellow part selected, and now I'm going to hold down Shift and select the black, and I can go to Path, Difference, and now that's differenced out. I can get rid of this white rectangle that I put in there now. And now that looks like my card. I need to draw some score lines. They won't automatically come into Design Space as score lines, but you can draw the lines, and then when you ungroup you can change the lines to scores and then reattach them to the card. So I'm just going to use the Bezier tool and click to make a score line, and then I'm going to duplicate that and use the Shift arrows to move it over here, and then I'm just going to have to line it up like this. It should, there. With my snap tools it should snap it straight to that guide that I've got. Okay, so there's our card with the score lines and with the smaller lattice. So I went through that pretty quickly, but maybe if you watch it again you can get all of the details. I know that there's a lot in there, a lot of useful techniques. And then we can delete this original image now. If I select everything and do Control-Shift-R, it automatically resizes my document to the size of my image that I have selected, so that can be useful too. and then you can just save it and bring it into Design Space and it should work fine. Hope that helps you.